or post comments throughout the webinar if you have any comments or questions. Next slide. So we're excited to have you join us today. We want to take some time out to talk about a very important topic, and that's how to pay for college. So we're going to talk about college funding and financial literacy. Our main objectives for today's webinar are to talk about how we can equip students and parents with practical and useful information on college funding and financial literacy, offer you various strategies, and share any relevant college information as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. We want to make sure that this webinar is interactive, so please use the chat function, and please know that you are welcome to ask questions throughout. If we're unable to answer your questions immediately, we will certainly try to answer your questions during the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. Next slide. I want to introduce our sorority who is hosting today's webinar, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. We are an international Greek letter nonprofit service organization. We were founded on the campus of Howard University on January 15, 1908. And we have over 300,000 members worldwide. And this year's theme, our current program theme, is exemplifying excellence through sustainable service. And so we generally address community service needs through these 5 target program initiatives listed below. Target 1, HBCU for Life, a call to action, and #CAP. Target 2, women's health care and wellness. Target 3, building economic legacy. Target 4, the arts, and Target 5, global impact. And today's webinar will be focused on Targets 1 and Targets 3. Next, I want to introduce our collaborating Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated chapters. There are 11 chapters who are located geographically across the United States, from all the way from New Jersey down as far south as Florida, all the way as far west as Alaska. So thank you for joining us from various places across the country. And you see here the outstanding chapters that are collaborating and bringing you this webinar today. Next slide. So I mentioned earlier, there are 2 key target program initiatives that we are touching on with today's webinar. The first is the sorority's signature program, the college admissions process, which you'll hear us refer to as #CAP. And that program is really to assist high school juniors and seniors and their parents, I like to add, through the college admissions process, because I recognize the students or their parents are certainly in it with the students. But also we are focusing on Target 3, which focuses on building economic legacy. This is where we talk about financial planning and emphasizing the need to be financially informed and literate, talking about asset accumulation and wealth as well. So we're combining these 2 efforts with what we hope to be a dynamic webinar tonight or today. Next slide. Now, as we kick off, we want to certainly introduce you and invite you to participate in our #CAP program. Each of our local Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated chapters have a #CAP program that we are operating and implementing in our local serving communities. And each year, we invite students to participate and receive personalized support and attention from your local AKA chapters. We help students through getting their college applications submitted. We help them with SAT and ACT registration and preparatory work, writing essays, obtaining letters of recommendation, understanding financial aid, how to get scholarships, and more. So if you are a student and you are interested in becoming a part of our program, we'll certainly be happy to put you in contact with a local AKA chapter, one who may be collaborating with us today, or we can certainly pair you up with another chapter who may be closer to you. But there's a link here for the application on how to apply, and feel free to use the email listed below if you have any questions. And also you'll have an opportunity after the webinar today to express your interest with our survey evaluation on if you'd like to join our #CAP program. Next slide. And we certainly want to invite you to continue to join us for future webinars. Our next dynamic webinar is coming up on June 27th from 4 to 5:30 p.m. And we're going to be focusing on helping students with the college admissions process by bringing in a panelist of historically Black college and university and predominantly white institution college admissions officials. We want to certainly give students and parents a firsthand opportunity to speak directly with experts to hear what you should and maybe you shouldn't do in terms of your whole college admissions application process. So please sign up. The registration link is listed below. Next slide. So today in our discussion, we are certainly going to cover and hear a lot of great things about financial financial planning and college funding from our speaker. So we'll have a speaker introduction, and then I will turn over the conversation to her. And then after she's presented, we'll have closing remarks. We'll share a little bit more information about our survey evaluation. Stick around to the end. We will have giveaway opportunities for students, 3 students. And then we certainly want to move into a Q&A session and give you an opportunity to ask questions you hadn't had a previous opportunity to ask. Next slide. So with that being said, I certainly want to introduce our dynamic speaker, Ms. Gina Pryor. She is a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. She is also the founder and CEO of Pryor Financial Services, LLC, which is an accredited wealth strategist and financial counselor with the Association for Financial Counseling and Planning Education. In 2016, Ms. Pryor established Pryor Financial Services, LLC, with a vision to provide individuals and small business owners with debt elimination strategies, very important, retirement, college, and insurance planning, and wealth creation options to achieve financial independence. She's a wealth strategist, accredited financial counselor, former Morgan Stanley Wealth Management registered securities representative, and an award-winning insurance agent. She believes in helping clients find money that they may be throwing away unknowingly and unnecessarily. So please help me in welcoming Ms. Gina Pryor to give us a dynamic discussion on college funding and financial literacy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Murray. I appreciate the AKAs inviting me to present to you all this afternoon on strategies on how you can pay for college and do so with as little out-of-pocket monies as possible. I will share throughout the presentation some of my experiences as well as my clients' experiences, because I want to make this real to you all, because it can be very daunting going into the college planning process. A little bit more about myself, as Dr. Murray said, my focus at Pryor Financial Services is to help our clients achieve a wealth mindset. And you may ask, well, what is that? Well, when it comes down to it, most Americans manage their money on a paycheck to paycheck or on a month-to-month basis. When we establish a wealth mindset, and what I use as the principal foundation of my work, is I ask clients to consider how much money will they make over their lifetime. For example, if you make in your household $100,000 a year and you work for 35 years, you have had access to $3.5 million. I want you to consider that for a moment, $3.5 million. So the key question when we're looking at wealth accumulation and generational wealth is, well, what do you have to show for that at age 65? How much is your net worth at that time? And then when you're looking at leaving a legacy to your children or creating generational wealth, giving to our children's children's children, this is where having the wealth mindset comes in. As we think about our income over our lifetime, it helps us to reshape how we pay for things, how we buy things. So as a financial counselor, strategist, educator, that is what I focus on, ensuring income protection, utilizing life insurance as one of those key foundations, because there's so many things that can be done with life insurance. A lot of my practice is on debt elimination and retirement planning because as we have more debt, it robs us of our wealth. And I added college funding solutions to my practice last year because as I'm working with individuals who have debt, I realized that many of them have student loan debt and are now also having debt with their children. So you have my information at the bottom of the slides, www.pryorfinancial.com. If you want to have a one-on-one consultation with me, please don't hesitate to go to that website and you can schedule an appointment, or you can continue to follow up with me at my email address, financecoach@pryorfinancial.net. But also, as we're going through this presentation, the sorority or individual from the sorority that invited you to attend, please don't hesitate to reach out to them. As I said, many individuals feel overwhelmed with this process. And if you have more than one child going through this, it can be even more compelling. I know for me and my husband, we had three children 2 years apart. And at one point, we had three of them in school at the same time for 6 total years. So it's important that we understand how to fund in order to minimize our out-of-pocket costs. So what are the biggest concerns that most parents have when it comes to college and college planning? First, missing deadlines or making mistakes and not having enough time to do everything that is required. And unfortunately, because they feel overwhelmed, they procrastinate. It's just part of our nature. And as a result of that, by the time their student is in the 12th grade and ready to fill out their college application, they have very little planned, and therefore by default, we use student loans. Another concern is developing a plan to pay for college. So I applaud you for being here this afternoon because we're equipping you through the #CAP program. As you follow through your sorority, please follow through and we will provide you with the tools to make that process easier. It's always good if you have a partner who understands this, who's gone through this, makes it so much easier. Another concern, unknowingly doing something that will hurt their child's chances of college admission or hurting their child's opportunity to get the most financial aid available. This is one of the reasons for our program. So I encourage you again, please dial in to the person who invited you or the sorority with you. And if you cannot find someone local, we are international. We are a click away. And once you hit that click, then you can get a phone call away. We are here to help you. So let me ask you the question, why is college so expensive? I remember when I was working on my master's degree, I had a program where if I took any class that semester, it was a simple $50. I plowed in as many classes as I could to get my master's. But now we're paying tuition, we're paying room and board, we're paying for books, we're paying all kinds of fees. So here's why it's so expensive. Colleges now, instead of just having one little room with a computer and they consider that to be the computer lab, they're having to connect all over as far as technology. We've seen that as a result of COVID with children going back home and still being able to plug into their schools. Upgrading facilities. It's just not enough to have a dorm room and a classroom. You've got to have facilities like gymnasiums and the various areas for them to eat and other activities. The staffing costs, there's so much competition now for these dollars. So they're paying more and they're marketing their schools more. So as a result, the cost of school is going up. But let me tell you something. You don't have to pay the sticker price for the schools. And unfortunately, because of lack of knowledge, a lot of individuals do, a lot of us pay the sticker price. Just like you wouldn't want to go into a dealership's lot and pay the manufacturer's suggested retail price for a car. You're going to negotiate, right? You have those same opportunities to do that when it comes to college funding. So what we want to do then in planning for our college and our child to go to college, first of all, you have to do some research. You want to go to a school that has the major first that you want, and this is your first step in college planning. You want to go to the school that offers the most financial aid, that has a track record of having that student graduate in 4 years. If I were to ask you, what is the average length of time a student is in college, what would you say? The average is 5.5 years for a 4-year degree. 5.5 years for a 4-year degree. On average, only 19% of students graduate in 4 years. And one of the reasons you want to take that into consideration is if the school is not focused on ensuring your child graduates in that 4-year time window, what does that mean for you? It means more cost. If that child hasn't prepared in high school to take some classes that will reduce that cost, reduce that course load, what does that mean for you? More cost. So we also want to go to a school that minimizes student loan debt. So again, you don't have to pay the sticker price for college education, and don't automatically default to student or parent loans. Don't follow the crowd. So that's what my little fish here represents. Just don't follow the crowd. And with our program, you won't have to. So how do you ensure that you're doing that? Well, first and foremost, you have to do your research. So there is some work involved. First, you can go to the college websites of the student for the schools that your child wants to attend. By law, every school has a link on their website that will help you do the calculations of how much does it cost to go to this school. What is the cost? What is the financial aid? What are the tuition? What are the fees? Every website has that now. Another software that's really, really good for college planning is bigfuture.org and collegesimplified.com. With these websites, you can actually go in and do a side-by-side comparison of several schools at one time. And this way, instead of settling for one school, you can compare. And what I like to do a lot of times, not just in your state, but out of state schools and Ivy League schools to compare it to other schools, any of those that have your major. So by doing that up front, first and foremost, you're reducing the anxiety because you already know what the school is going to cost before you go into the school. Also for parents, you now can reduce and limit the number of schools you're going to visit because now you know that school meets your child's criteria. The government websites, collegescorecard.ed.gov and studentaid.gov, and especially these websites, have numerous calculators that you can use, numerous links to other resources that are available to you. So I encourage you, in your spare time, explore these, have your child explore these, play with options available to you as far as various schools. So what are you going to research? First and foremost, you're going to research what is the cost of attendance. Now, I'm going to break down all these terms to you along the way in this presentation. But you want to know what is the cost of attendance. And I will tell you, just because it may be Harvard or it may be an Ivy League school, do not let that discourage you from considering them as an option for your child. You want to know what their graduation rate is. All of them are required by law to provide that to you. What are their financial aid statistics? And you can actually plug in some of your personal information and it will give you an estimate of what yours would be. So what are you looking at? Grants, scholarships, merit-based versus need-based? Do they provide work study? And what other options are available to you? Most importantly, if this becomes the school that you narrow down as your top 3, what are the deadlines? I encourage you, as though you were planning for a major vacation or a major project at work, don't do this ad hoc. Create some templates, and you'll see at the very end, Dr. Murray has provided a lot of these tools for you through her workbook, that we have made it easy for you to utilize this so you don't have to start from scratch. But know what your deadlines is, know what the application process is, because in many cases, this is why and when we make our critical mistakes, and that's why our college cost is so much higher. Look at the college environment. What does it have as far as the major, the demographics, the campus life? How does that fit your student? Because again, if you choose the wrong school for your child and your child's personality, it is a greater possibility that that child would transfer to another school or that child will leave school altogether. So you want to consider each and all of those when you're doing your research. Here's some things too that you want to look at as far as affordability and transparency. So these are some tools to look at when it comes to knowing exactly what that college offers you. So at collegecosts.edu.gov, all of these tools are available to you to do your research. Again, you can create some templates, and those templates will help you keep track. I know when our first son went to school, We started out at one school, and before we knew it, we had a file drawer full of applications and information from other schools. And you're talking about overwhelmed. We were absolutely overwhelmed with the options available to us. So you can make this very, very simple. And I also encourage you, start early. Start early in the process. For those of you who have students who are now still in junior high school or even younger, this is a great time to start preparing for what does that cost and how can I do a pay-as-you-go or planning to save monies along the way. So here's some resources: savingforcollege.com, finaid.org, and Big Future. You'll hear me talk about Big Future a lot. This website is just loaded with resources that you can use. But most parents start out initially as like with a lot of my parents, they'll do the traditional 529 plans. I'm going to talk about that later on more in depth, but you can choose from your state if you're having a self-directed plan or if you're doing a prepaid plan. Now I'm in Maryland, close to the Virginia, DC state lines. So for us in Virginia, it's easy. There are benefits to doing a 529 in Virginia versus a 529 in Maryland. But in doing so, you want to consider the tax consequences, where your child is looking to go to school, as well as transferability of those. So when we're considering our 529s, these are some of the things we want to look at. In addition, a self-directed versus a prepaid plan. Are you going to be able to, based on that child's age, put the amount of money that is required to get a guaranteed college funding from that 529? Or if, because money is tight, you're going to have to choose your own and choose your own investments. So this is important also to know what strategy is going to work for you and work for your family. The Coverdale Educational Savings Account, very, very much like a 529, but not as flexible. And what do I mean? Now the 529 can be used for kindergarten all the way through to graduate school. So there are various different opportunities and options that you have with a 529 that you don't have with an ESA. Also, we have the UGMAs and UTMAs. So the assets are in the name of the child. When they're in the name of the child, understand that this counts against you as a parent as far as your expected family contribution. Because it is an asset to the child, it will be considered when it comes to their college costs and college funding. Here are two areas, one that most parents don't consider: life insurance. Now, I'll talk a little bit more about life insurance through this, but one of the things I encourage parents to do, especially when their children are very young, is take out life insurance policies in the name of their children so that the cash value in the life insurance policy can be used for their college education. Why do I recommend that over some of the others? It's because the dollars in the life insurance policy are not subject to taxes. Even if you don't use it for college and want to use it for something else, there are no penalties. The cash in the life insurance policy grows risk-free as far as the market. And if the child doesn't need it for college, it can be used for other things like a down payment on their home. Government bonds, both government and municipal bonds, are other strategies that you can use for college funding as your child continues to are in their younger years. And these are things that most parents don't consider as well. A lot of our bonds are inflation adjusted, so those can be used as well. We can encourage family members to give these as gifts when our children are much, much younger. I know, for example, when our children were young, we did $12.50 per paycheck twice a month. And that's how we initially looked at planning and funding our children's college education. Throughout the presentation, if you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to put them in the chat box, and we'll address those. For those who we have individuals who are monitoring the chat box, and they may be able to answer you directly. But if we don't get those answers, we would definitely cover those at the end of the presentation. So here's some typical timelines that you want to consider when it comes to your college planning. During that freshman, junior, and sophomore and junior year, we want to ensure that our children are taking the right kinds of classes. If there's some aptitude tests that they can take as far as career aptitude, what are the focus and what are they more inclined to be favored as far as their career path? We can narrow those down. And this is great because your child can also start taking AP classes. They can do dual enrollment classes while they're still in high school. There are over 100 schools that provide you with the opportunity that your child can do a dual enrollment, can take different advanced classes, which for you as a parent can equate to almost having an associate's degree by the time they finish high school. So they graduate with a diploma and an associate's degree. What is better than that? A lot of schools, you're only paying like $10 per class, $25 for these AP classes, versus if you were doing it while they're in school, you're paying hundreds of dollars per class. In addition, they're in a home environment, so they're getting accustomed to some of the pressures or some of the workload that is required of them when they're in college, with you being by their side, with you encouraging them through the process. So this is another way that you as a parent can help direct your child into the right classes, as well as save them not only money, but also save them time for graduation. In their senior year, the federal government has where the FAFSA form, it starts in June, but then by July and October time period, as you've narrowed down those 3 schools or 5 schools that you're choosing to use, you can now have your child start submitting their applications. And typically 8 to 10 weeks after they're submitted, then with that also, they will start receiving their award letters in the February, March timeframe, October for their FAFSA, and if you're going to a private school, their CSS profile as well. Those forms will then be submitted to the schools that you have elected, and then by May 1st, you should start receiving those award acceptance letters. So let me talk now about financial aid. Now, I know that a lot of individuals probably don't want to go down this road. And a lot of families, unfortunately, a lot of our families don't like filling out the FAFSA form because they said it's just too complex, it's too many questions. But I want to encourage you, the importance of filling out this form is that without you filling out this form, then and filling it out early to meet that June timeline for the federal government has, then your child will miss opportunities for getting merit scholarship aid, grants, as well as getting financial aid that is government favored. And when I say government favored, it means that you're not having to pay the interest while that child is in school. Instead, what I see in my practice, parents wait till the last minute. And so they end up taking out government loans, student loans, but that interest kicks in from the moment that the funds are distributed to the family. We don't want that. So understanding the importance of filling out this form, and understand too that filling out the form correctly is very, very important. Now, what I hear oftentimes is, well, I make, $200,000 a year, or $100,000 a year, so my income is too high for me to be able to receive financial aid. And I want to say to you, income is not the number one driver of receiving financial aid. There are merit scholarships based on a child athletic, academic, or they may fall into other categories at the school that qualifies them for financial aid, meaning grants and scholarships and work study. And it's not based on what your income is. I hear people also say, well, my child's grades are too low, so they're not eligible for financial aid. Financial aid and grades have nothing in common. So you can have a student who is a 2.5 still qualify for financial aid. I own a house, so that's going to count against me. In most instances, it does not. If you're going to a private school, they may look at the equity in your home, but generally, as a rule, no, it does not count against you when it comes to financial aid. I also hear, well, aid is only for those special groups of people. No, there are specific groups that receive additional financial aid, but for financial aid programs as general, for all students, they're eligible. Now, you may have a student who's specializing in maybe education at minority schools, special education, they may be in the medical field or other areas like STEM. Those groups may have special grants that are being offered to them, but in most cases, they're sponsored by groups outside of the college, but they're coming to that student through the college. Some feel like, oh, this is a difficult process. Well, it can be a difficult process. It's not easy for everyone, which is why here at AKA, we are partnering with you or willing to partner with you to make that process easier, because we want our children to get the opportunities for advanced education. It makes a huge difference in the quality of life they have upon graduation. When you look at the salary differences of a high school student or a high school dropout versus an individual that has completed um, uh, their associate degrees, their bachelor's degree, their master's degree, automatically that income goes up. Automatically the stability in their household goes up. Automatically we'll start seeing statistics in the difference in their health and their health care. But here's the other difference. Because their income is better, their living situation is better, which means now we're creating generationally our better as far as our children and better generational wealth. So that college education is vital to continuing and having opportunities. Now, I'm not trying to dismiss individuals who have vocational skills, because we do. I mean, just tell me if the air conditioner goes out in June, I want somebody who specializes in ACs. If my car goes out, I want somebody who is an accredited technician for my car. So I'm not saying that, but as a whole, if we're looking for college education, it makes a difference in the quality of life and the salaries they're able to command. And schools, the school people can help. Now, I would just tell you our school faculty, as far as our high schools, the guidance counselors are overwhelmed. The school counselors at the colleges are overwhelmed. So if you can get more people on your team to help you through this process, the better for you and the better for your child. How do you apply for the financial aid for your child? Well, first of all, you create the financial aid login, the FAFSA login, and make sure that your child keeps track of that, their login ID as well as their login password, because they're going to use this the entire time they're in school. It is not a one-time event that you apply for financial aid in their freshman year. You have to reapply every year while they are in school. I see this happen where parents feel, well, okay, I didn't get it, so I'm not eligible anymore. Absolutely not. I also encourage parents that if a child does not get financial aid at the very beginning for that first semester, stay in touch with that financial aid office, because a lot of times you have schools that may have scholarships and have sent award letters out to a number of students. Let's just use the example of 100 students. And in that, they gave them their award letters. And some of those students, I would say, let's just say 45 of them or 70 of them actually show up and start school. That means there's 30 of those students who received award letters, money was set aside for them, and they chose a different school. What do you think is going to happen to that money? Well, because aid is given on a first come, first served basis, if your child didn't get selected the first time, have them go back and ask, even in the midst of the semester, was there any additional aid available? Can you consider me for next semester? Don't give up just because you received a no, or you received a smaller amount. There are opportunities throughout the year that may be available to your student to garner additional monies for school. So don't give up and don't have them give up. So once you create the website, your ID, you want to go ahead and submit your FAFSA form. Again, it is important that you do this, because without doing that, then you are not eligible for anything. And as I talk to my colleagues in the college planning, college funding business, this is one of the things that they say most individuals fail to do. First of all, submit the form, and then secondly, submit it correctly. So now, because we have across the United States, all of these forms are submitted, the calculations are pretty much general and set for everyone. So that goes into your data processing center. Your student then will get their student aid report. Looking at that report, that's going to tell them what their expected family contribution is, and then they will receive the financial aid notice. So let's go to now a deep dive into all of that. So with the FAFSA, the schools use this to determine the student's eligibility, the aid that is needed. They look at the competition, not from the student, but from other schools. So listing those schools of what you want, who you want them to receive your financial report, your financial aid report, makes a huge difference. If your child only puts on that form, they want to go to Bowie and they submit it only to Bowie, Bowie has no competition. If they say, I'm going to Bowie, I'm also wanting to go to Howard, I wanted to go to Harvard, I wanted to go to Florida State, now the school is looking at that student differently as far as their criteria. This was the first surprise to me when our oldest son applied to school. I was asking, how did these people find out about us? Well, they're interacting amongst themselves, and each one is coming with an offer that they feel is you will not refuse. And a lot of times it could start out very, very low, depending on the quality of the schools that you've selected. So do not have your students select or put down just one or two schools. They can do up to 10, but then once they've already submitted their form, they can come back and change that again. Again, too, your income as far as your family, if you're in that high net worth individual, it does not disqualify you from receiving scholarships, because some of these scholarships are based on merit and some are based on other criteria. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. Accuracy on your FAFSA is very, very important. I was talking to a college planner. He's been in doing this for 20 years, and he was saying it's alarming that the schools are saying 80 to 90% of these FAFSA forms have errors. They're not going to come back and tell you what kind of errors you have. It's your responsibility to make sure it's correct. Now, some of the areas they're saying is, first and foremost, they're not signed. Wrong social security number, wrong income information. So one of the great things is the FAFSA can be interfaced with the IRS portal so that that financial information is accurate. Now, you want to make sure, though, that when you're filing your taxes are accurate as well. And this is really, really important if you have your own business, making sure that information is accurate. Missed deadlines and late applications. The deadline by the federal government is June. October 1st, and aid letters started coming out, and aid is awarded on a first come, first served basis by schools. So if you miss that deadline, you're at the back end. So if you don't receive much, then the responsibility is really on you and your family, and it doesn't have to be. So I encourage you again, make sure you're filling out the forms correctly, make sure you're doing it on time, and we at AKA are here to help you. I now want to break down what happens and how, when you're looking at a school, are we going to determine what the cost is for that school? Because you can choose any number of schools here throughout the United States, and all of them will vary in cost. And when we're talking about the cost of college, and it's important to understand how the support that you're provided by the college, by the federal government, and other entities is available to you. So there's a standard equation that's used for all schools when it comes to college and college funding. And that is the COA, which is your cost of attendance, then the expected family contribution, often told as the EFC, and then your need-based aid eligibility. That is the equation for everyone. So let's break that down. When you're looking at a school, you want to know, and to get the best shot, how much need does that school meet? If you have, for example, a need for $17,000, how much of that $17,000 per year will that school meet? Part of doing your research will tell you that statistic. And that's why it's important to use these websites to do a side-by-side comparison. Let me give you an example. If your student is choosing between, I'm not trying to disparage HBCUs or anything. So if your child is trying to choose between Florida State and Harvard, those two varying schools, most would say, well, wow, it's cheaper to go to Florida State than it is to go to Harvard. But when you're looking at need-based, based on what that school is looking at to provide free money, even though the tuition is higher, because of their foundations, because of the funding they provide to their students, in a lot of instances, it may be cheaper for your child to go to Harvard, because especially if they're in the economic bracket of maybe 200,000 or less, the majority of the students that are going to this school are in income brackets of $500,000 or $1 million or more. So your child economically has a greater need for funding than if they were going to Florida State. And I just want to let you know that. So don't discard other schools just because that price tag or the cost of attendance starts out very, very high. And so you want to look at, well, how much of the need does the school meet? How much of that money is free so that you don't have to worry about a student loan or student loan repayment? How much of that is self-help? How much do you have to bring to the table? How much may be used for work study and things like that? It is important that you know these statistics for these schools before you spend your money to apply to the school, before you do your school visit and your college tour. That's going to save you time as well as save you money. So here's an example of this. So we're looking at a school. The cost of attendance for the school is $20,000. The expected family contribution is $5,000. So when you look at that, what does the student's need? What is the gap? It's $15,000. So it's simple math. 20,000 minus 5,000 equals 15. So if the school as a whole meets 50% of that need, so 50% of $15,000 is $7,500 is the need met by the school. So here's the math you want to factor in. So now the school has met $7,500 of the need. So what does that leave you as the family member? So that means the $7,500 is unmet. You have to add that $7,500 to your $5,000 to know now what you as the parent are expected to come out of pocket for the year for that student. This is why this information is so important. So you want to look at how much is met as far as the need, how much then leaves is left as the unmet need. So if a school meets 100% of the need, for example, because maybe Harvard or Yale, because of the dynamics of their school, they may then meet the entire 15,000 of that need, which means for you as the parent, you only are paying $5,000 per year for your child to go to school. This is statistics you need to know before you apply to the school. And there are tools and resources that I gave you that can help you. Big Futures is one of them that would help you know those numbers beforehand. Again, from a financial perspective, it is also important that you have this conversation with your child and helping them to understand the expectations. I know for us, one of the things we said to our children all along, and for those of you who attended the workshop last month that Dr. Murray gave, she was saying that your most important job in school right now, this is your job. Get a good education in high school so that you qualify for scholarships, etc. But one of the things we said to our children along the way is, we will pay for your last 2 years of school, of college. You heard me right. We said, we will pay for your last 2 years of college. And they said, well, wait a minute. What about the first 2 years? If you do your job in high school, we probably won't even have to pay for the last 2 years because you would have done what you're supposed to do while you had 12 years free on our tax dollars that we were paying so that you can go to school like everybody else that knows the system and go to school for free. And 2 of our 3 children did exactly that. So this is why it's important to know this. This is why it's also important to set that expectation within for your children. Because again, I find with my parents that they're now struggling with, okay, I still have a mortgage. I need to pay for have something for retirement, but wow, this school is going to be a lot more than I expected. We don't have to put ourselves in that situation. So I just gave you an example of why we want to choose more than one school to look at. And here's an example I'm doing from Northwestern University and Kent State University. So here at Northwestern, you can see where the cost of attendance is $79,342 a year. Most would lean to this state university, right? Because typically your state colleges are much, much less. So their cost of attendance is $28,666. Based on the calculation of the expected family contribution, it doesn't change, but the expected contribution for the family is $78.78. So what did that leave as the need? At Northwestern, it left $71,464. At Kent State, it left $20,788. Now here's why you need to know this number. At Northwestern, they provide 100% of the need, which means they're going to provide scholarships and grants and work study for this deficit of the $71,444. But at Kent State, they provide 55% of the need. So what does that mean? Your child is now and you are $9,355 short for that year tuition. But that's not the only thing. You have this $9,333 in addition to the 7877. So here the family contribution, expected family contribution at Kent State is 17,233, whereas at Northwestern, 7878. Again, it's really important that you understand when we're doing this calculation, cost of attendance, expected family contribution, what is the percent of need that is met by the school. Now, there are some strategies along the way that you can do to reduce your expected family contribution. That's part of the college planning, financial planning strategies. But when we're just doing an apples to apples, side by side comparison for parents who are now, oh my gosh, my child is in high school, what am I going to do? This shows you clearly what you can be able to expect. So here's a breakdown in Northwestern. They had a gift aid of 76%. Are they going to advertise that? No, they're not. But they're going to do it on a case by case basis. And then self-help, which usually is your work study programs, that's going to be 17,151. You can see the difference in the amount of contributions each of these schools are going to make. And those websites will give you that. As you drill down to each and every college, they're providing you that information as well, because now all of the schools have to report the information the same way. I'll get to my next slide. So the question is, and I often have this, what if I make too much? I remember doing that when we were having our 3 children going to school at the same time. Our oldest son was an engineer. He went to a 5-year program. Our youngest son was an art major. He went to a state school. Our daughter decided she wanted to go to school 1 year early, so she went to another different school. So we had already planned to have them kind of spaced out. We never expected, we thought we would have 2 in school at the same time for 8 years. We ended up having 3 in school at the same time for 6 years. Now I say to you, when with us, one of the challenges was, okay, how much do you make? Well, we didn't have to worry about that because we started looking at other ways of funding our child's college education. For example, our son used one of the ROTC programs. Of all the schools that we looked at, all of the funding that was provided to us, he loved the ROTC program. So we end up finding, and this is again important to know about your child, know your child's personality. What is a good environment and a thriving environment for them to be in? That's also why it's great to research the school about what the school's demographic is. What is the location? How quickly, if you need to get them home and things like that. So when our son went to school, he said, well, I want to go to an HBCU. So we narrowed down our HBCUs. He got scholarships at all of them, but one school offered him a full 4-year ROTC scholarship. And it covered even all of that, including his books, his tuition, as well as a stipend. Our younger son in a soft skill set, he chose a school. Initially, we had everything planned, had done the college visit, put down our payment for our tuition. And on our way home, he says, I don't want to go to that school that's bigger than I thought it was. So we ended up on our way back home, shifting to a school that was more suited to his personality, to suited to what his friends, and he felt comfortable there. Well, we knew that was important for his success at school. Then our daughter, she started college at 16. She wanted to go to a large university. I said, I don't think that's the best thing for you, the best place for you. So we partnered up with the school. We found the right school for her to go to, found great mentors for her to be able to relate to. And our fears of her being 16 and being off in college were allayed because we didn't have to worry about that. We found the right school. But in addition to that, because of her major, we were able to use some of the state benefits associated with that state to get her a full scholarship as well. So we had 3 in school at the same time, and we were doing a pay-as-you-go for our youngest son. We had money set aside for all of them, but we didn't have to use any income except for him. So why am I saying this? Just because you make a certain amount of money does not mean you're limited in the strategies you can use to pay for your child to go to school for that piece that you have to pay for. Well, you shouldn't have to overpay for them to go to school. So there are many strategies, your cash flow strategies. You have this merit-based aids that you can get, the student positioning strategies. Where do they rank in their schools, and how well do you write those letters of recommendation and the things that they have done previous to going to and applying for that school. Appeals strategies. If you don't get the money that you needed, that you expected, don't just consider that that means you cannot. You need to go back and ask for more, and there are others. So there are typically four main sources of college aid. We have the federal government, state government, colleges, university, and private sources. Most individuals tend to lean that they've got to get aid from the school through student loans. But the student loans include the students' monies for tuition include grants. And so we don't want to discard having grants. The benefit of having a grant is you don't have to pay the money back. And so there are your Pell Grants, your federal and supplemental educational opportunity grants, but there are also need-based grants that are afforded to you by the school and universities that are not always advertised. When it comes to other grants, could include work study. Now, I remember our son wanted to go to work while he was in school in his last semesters. Part of that was to get some hands-on experience, but we had done some of those with his internships, even while he was in high school. We started having him do mentoring programs. This is important when it comes to getting those college funds. Now, for example, when our son was looking to be an engineer, his first thing was aerospace engineer. He worked during the summer and during the holidays for an aerospace engineering firm. It gave us great insights to what he should focus on for when he was going to school. What did that do? That helped us to narrow. That also helped him get hands-on experience. But he also ended up with great mentors through that process. So we want to encourage our children as early as possible. Get these internships, get these mentors programs. And if they're not getting paid, that's okay. It gives them that exposure, because sometimes that exposure gives them opportunities to get funding when they need it when they go to school. If you're doing a work study program, it is better to get that work study program through the college versus having them have a part-time job. Because if it's part-time income, it becomes an asset, part of the expected family contribution for the child. So you want to look at that. Work study does not count against your expected family contribution. And then we have the loans. So I'll talk a little bit more about the loans as we go. But here, where do you get the money? So as I already said, we have our federal programs, which are work studies. I'm going to talk a little bit more about our subsidized versus unsubsidized direct loan, as well as our Parent Plus loans. But even within our state have special programs for in-state residents, for whether you're a teacher in the health profession, minorities, etc. So don't discount those. That's what our daughter ended up using. I came into the military as a resident of Florida. I had not been in Florida by the time she got ready to go to college. I had not been to Florida, I think it was like 16 years. But because I was still a Florida resident, because I was active duty, she qualified for all of the financial programs that the state of Florida offered. And because she was going into education and specifically into special education, we did not have to pay anything for her to go to school. In fact, they paid her while she was going to school. In addition, when she got ready to get her master's, because she continued her program into her master's, that provided her with her master's degree almost free as well. So don't discard programs like the teaching profession, STEM programs, minority programs. Those will be within your state. You can always go to the website for the careeronestop.org down here. I'm going to try to get my arrow down here at the bottom. A lot of these will link you to programs available for funding in your state. Also with the colleges, as I was showing you in the example, you have a lot of these colleges like your Yale, your Princeton, your Harvards that have endowment funds. I was just reading about the individual that was responsible for the endowment fund at Yale. By the time he finished, he did a 30-year stint at Yale. He had grown their endowment fund by, I think it was over 3,000%. So they've got all kind of money. So what does that mean? That if your child has a need-based, that school is more likely to give that money to that child. but these are awarded on a first term, first come, first served basis. So if you are taking your time and making that decision about having your child apply, you're at the back of the line. So funds get more scarce along the way. And then there are private sources. Do not have your child dismiss things like essay contests that they can do starting usually in the 9th grade year. My granddaughter is in Girl Scouts, and she is 9 years old, and she's already talking about she's going to get a Girl Scout scholarship when she graduates from high school. She's doing everything along the way to check the box that that's one of the options that are going to be available to her is a Girl Scout scholarship. I know for the military, as I was in the military, we had all kinds of scholarships for youth of active duty, retired, vet, and disabled veterans. Would you believe it? A lot of times they had scholarship money still on the table because people would not apply. We have, like, for example, our church, and you can look at your local churches, your employers, your associations, professional organizations. Every year, our church gives out in scholarship and student loan and student grant money over $100,000. We had one year, we didn't even have enough applicants for the money, and we had to do a second call just to give the funds out. Sometimes it's not going to be the big 10,000, 5,000, 100,000 for a student. It might be, and one of the things I realized a couple of years ago, we had individuals in our church that had a special passion for areas, and they gave out, if a student was, say, an accounting major, they gave out a book scholarship for those who were accounting majors. So those dollars can add up when you're looking at books costing $300, $400 per semester. So here I've included, since you all will be getting the slides, these are the resources available to you that you can go and look at for applying for those scholarships. Now, one thing I want to share with you, if you have an organization who is saying they're going to help you with scholarships and they ask for money up front, run in the other direction. Most of those are scams. But again, there's scholarship services. There's a tool called Free Scholarship Search Tool that will list all the scholarships. All you have to do is click and apply. Also, one of the things that in Dr. Murray's book, it shows you how to do that essay and some of those, writing some key documents. Once you've created those and you've perfected those, you don't have to go back and start all over again. You've got a good worksheet, a good template. You may have to add another sentence here or a sentence there. It's not a matter of starting over again. I was talking to a member of my sorority, and she was saying one of the things that they see oftentimes is this reluctance of students to write an essay. Well, one of the great resources we have available to you is people who are willing to help you do that. So once you've crafted that essay, all you've got to do is tweak it along the way. Other funding strategies, like I said, is ROTC. My son was one of those individuals that did ROTC. And one of the great things about ROTC scholarships, most of those are fully funded, and you don't have to make the commitment to go active duty or reservist until you get to your end of your junior year. A lot of the schools also, there are free colleges, believe it or not, that are available to individuals, and the tuition being free, especially if you're in a need-based, like what I just showed you, from an Ivy League school. You can do a pay-as-you-go, but also you can do community college first. There are a number of states now, there are 20 states that offer free community college for their children. In fact, the state of Maryland, this is the first year. If you meet certain criteria of grade point average, as well as the income for the household, you can go to community college in the state of Maryland free. So you want to look at that. Dual high school enrollment programs and advanced placements classes is very important as well. I was talking to one of my young people. She's going into the 9th grade. And when we first started 2 years ago talking about college for her, and I did say 2 years ago, she was looking to go into law. So one of the things I did was say, okay, let me introduce you to some lawyers so you can kind of now look at what it is in law you want to do. Well, because of COVID, we hadn't seen each other. So I saw her a couple of weeks ago and she said, I changed my mind. I'm going to be an anesthesiologist. Well, here's what she did. In our community, there are 6 advanced placement schools that provide skill sets that she could go ahead and do these advanced placements and dual enrollment programs. She competed for all 6 and got accepted in all 6. What does that do for her? When she graduates from high school, she'll have a bachelor's degree, a high school diploma, and she'll have an associate's degree, so that now she has to do only her last 2 years to get her master's degree onto, her bachelor's degree on her way to getting her certification as an anesthesiologist. Saves a lot of money. She said, it's going to be hard. I said, I know, but you can do it. You've already been accepted at 6 of these schools, tells you they believe in it, in you. You can do CLEP. So there's a cost, but some of these costs can be reimbursed to you. One of the areas that most individuals don't think about is the tuition reciprocity agreement. And this is, you can get credit for your in-state tuition, even though you're attending another school in another state. That's very common to us in the DC area. That you may have an individual that is a resident of the state of Maryland and goes to a Virginia school. That Virginia school is going to charge you in-state tuition, which can be a huge saver for you and while you're going to, because they have this agreement. An area that's not often talked about for paying for school is income share agreements. So you can have, we have several companies that once you go to school, they're going to pay your tuition for you, that you go and work for them. And by working for them, then you're paying back a portion of your salary in order to reimburse them for the income share agreements. Now, this is not a win-win for everyone, because if you're in a high bracket and your tuition is very low, you may be paying a little bit more back. But if you're in the other way around, it is a great resource for you. So you have to look at these income share agreements to determine what is the most cost effective for you. Would it be better for you to go ahead and compete on a need basis versus going through an income share agreement? A lot of our employers also provide reimbursements for college education, or they'll supplement it along the way. And I just realized I didn't put McDonald's on here. They're one of the #1 organizations that do this. Resident advisor. So students can be a resident advisor at the school, and therefore they get their dorm fees free, as well as can get a monthly stipend. I talked a little bit about life insurance as well. So that cash value in that life insurance policy can either be a loan or a withdrawal to pay for those fees, and does not count against your expected family contribution. I want to foot stomp this right now. I'm going to slow down. I do not recommend individuals withdrawing funds from their life, from their retirement in loans or withdrawals to pay for college. For me, that is a sore spot, because now you're interrupting the compounding of the funds you have in your retirement account. And with the market being up and down, you can end up losing considerable amount of money because you're choosing to use monies from your retirement for your child's college education. There are other alternatives to taking funds from your retirement. Another area I hear talked about a lot is a home equity line of credit, or refinancing their homes. As individuals start refinancing and then using their home's equity for their retirement, for their child's college education, it oftentimes, what I've seen, means that going into retirement, they have a mortgage. And for me in my practice, that's one of the no-nos of my practice. As much as possible, I try to ensure my clients do not have any debt going into retirement. So we don't want to use that as our fallback, that we're going to end up having to sacrifice our retirement or working longer in retirement because we funded for our children's college education. Here's some of the things I share with parents. When we're taking out these student loans, make sure your child is very, very much aware of that cost, because that cost is going to be not just what they're borrowing, but it is a long-term cost if you're looking at doing this as an option. And in most cases, that means that your retirement is going to be sacrificed considerably if you're doing this just so that you can help your child. I want to now talk about 529s, because this is one of the most common tools that a lot of parents and family members use when it comes to their college funding. Funds in a 529 count as part of the expected family contribution. So it will increase that amount that you're expected to pay towards supporting your child's college education, because that's why you got the 529. If the funds are used in college education, then there are no penalties associated with using those funds. However, if you do not use those funds for college education, then those funds are taxed to you once you withdraw them for other expenses. There is the asset protection allowance of $10,000, but everything above that, up to a max of 5.64%, that's part of your student loan packages. This is one of the reasons why I share with parents, if you can take those same funds and put them in a life insurance policy for your child, it is a better way to use those dollars. Now, in my practice here at Pryor Financial Services, I try to help clients use their dollars 4 or 5 times of the same dollar without releasing, without depleting that dollar. And this is a great strategy when it comes to college funding. This is a scenario for one of my clients. They entered into the 529 when she was just a couple of months old. Their contribution for a prepaid plan was $559 a month, with the expected that by the time she finished, she was finished college at age 21. And this is another strategy that we use. Do not take those funds out until they're at their end, because as you're drawing monies out of 529, that is part of your EFC. They're counting that towards your college funding. So by having it, and that's whether you're paying for it, the grandparents are paying for it, or anybody else. So with this, I recommend to my clients, wait until they graduate. And then now you take it out to pay whatever fees you have left. In addition, it allows them to accumulate interest and growth the whole 4 years, instead of taking it out year after year after year, because now you're interrupting the compounding of those dollars. The great thing about having a prepaid is the state that you're using this prepaid in is guaranteeing you those funds will be there. If you're doing a self-directed, you are now determining where to invest those dollars and the rate of return you're going to get on those dollars. So here with my young client, they were contributing $559 a month with a guarantee that she would have $80,000 at age 21 towards her college expenses. When I talked with them, she's 10 years old, and I gave them the pros and cons of the 529s. Although, as I've seen with most of my clients, if the parents are college graduates, more than likely they're putting their children in courses and in school and talking about college along the way. So it is the expected. So what I showed them is you have this fluctuation and a guarantee of only $80,000 that can only be used for college expenses. If you do not use it for college and use it for something else, and plus with them, they only had the one child, everything's going to be taxed, so it's income to you, and you're going to have penalties. So what did we do? We rolled this 559 in income that they were paying into her life insurance policy. What did that do for her? Well, immediately it gave her permanent life insurance protection. As you can see here, over $800,000 of life insurance protection. But that wasn't our primary focus. Our primary focus was college. So here you can see at age 21, the monies that she would have is over almost $80,000, and she only put into this policy for 12 years, whereas they were putting into this 529 for 21 years. What did this also provide to her? Well, in addition to that, by the time she was 21, she had over 900,000. She took the 70, 80,000 out that we were projecting. It still gave her a death benefit of over $828,000. So she continued to get that. In addition, in her life insurance policy, there were living benefits. So if anything happened to her health-wise, she could use monies out of her life insurance policy to take care of that. If she's looking to not use that and leave these dollars there, this is money she can now use for a down payment on her house. They can use it for her to buy a car when she graduates from college and any other number of things. So for me, if I can help a client use their funds more than one way and still get the benefits, having options, this is a strategy I use with my clients. Now let's talk about the different kinds of student loans. I'm trying to be mindful of the time. So we have the direct subsidized, which means that if a student has a non-met need, you can use the direct subsidized loan. The school is going to support that, give that loan to that child. And the benefit of that is there is no interest at the distribution of those funds. So once the school gives them to the child, then the federal government pays the interest on those student loans. Whereas we have the direct unsubsidized, this means that this is a not met need. That means that once that money is dispersed to the child, interest starts accruing on that student loan. So a lot of times then, if you're not having if you have these unsubsidized loans, you can accrue 4 years of interest while your child is in school. And then one of the things that most parents don't consider with these student loans is interest compounds daily on these student loans. And that's why you can start out with a $3,000 in one semester, but by the time you graduate, it might be $10,000. Likewise, too, with the Direct Plus student loans, this is what is provided to the parents. The interest rate on those student loans is much, much higher. And again, interest rates start upon distribution of those dollars. When you're receiving your award letter, understand too how to read the award letters, because of a lot of schools, they don't really tell you, is this money I have to pay back or is this money that I get for free? So here we just have an example, and this is called Decoding the Award Packages. And it said 136 out of 455 schools use this kind of awards package letter. So you'll see the cost of attendance, what the tuition is, the fees, and then your direct costs. The finance package. So when you see here, they received a Pell Grant, but this is an old one. So it had the Perkins L, that was a loan. That money is paid back. The federal subsidized, that means that the government's paying it. But when you have federal unsubsidized, that means you're paying that money back. You're paying the interest on it as well. Parent plus loan, that means a loan. So it's important that if you don't understand the terminology of your awards package, please don't hesitate to ask for at the awards financial aid office, what does this mean? And also, just because you receive the funds does not mean you have to take everything that they've awarded to you. You can pick and choose what you feel most comfortable with. And sometimes it may mean that for your child that they may not go full time this year. They may go part time, or they may stay at home, or they may do other strategies. Here's the key. You want to stay within what you can comfortably afford. And having set that expectation for your child makes a tremendous difference. And this is an award letter that was given to one of our students at Ohio Wesleyan University. And you can see here in this award letter, they received an aid about $14,000. And this is one of the reasons I want to show you, you can appeal an awards letter. You can come back and provide additional information. And by doing that, the actual award that they received was almost doubled based on just coming back. And that's per semester based on the appeal. So don't discard the opportunity that you have to go back. Again, too, don't discard the opportunity for your child, if they didn't get money at the beginning of the semester, to stay in touch with that financial aid office to see, is there additional monies left over that I might be eligible for? Here's one of the things too, when we're talking about paying back loans, and you as a parent may have not only your student loan debt, and this is kind of where I started in my practice. I had parents who had mortgage, credit card, auto loans, student loans, and now we're entering into student loans for their children. I have a program where I show parents how they can eliminate almost all of their debt, usually in 9 years or less. But I've included instead in my practice students who are coming home with student loan debt. And this is one of my clients, Tyler. And you can see from Tyler, he had all kinds of loans throughout his stay at school. Our program is very detailed. Like I said, I want to give executable solutions. So this actually shows what month and year each of these debts are going to be paid off. Also shows them the total number of payments going to be made. Now with Tyler, he had $161,702 in student loan debt. It's important, if you have student loan debt, to go to the federal aid website and look at your amounts every semester so that you're staying in tune with how much you are owing and how much you are accruing. In addition, when you begin to make your payments, how are your payments being applied to your loan? I cannot tell you the number of people I've worked with who have no idea of the interest amount they owe. They only know what their monthly payment is. So understand too the difference between consolidating the loans and keeping them independent, like we have with Tyler. So these become 10-year loans. Once they're consolidated, they can become 30-year loans. And what your options are, which we're not going to get into today, but the different kinds of repayment options you have for student loans. So here we have with Tyler, the 161,702. This was after the interest was accruing while it was in school. But once he started making payments, he's going to have an additional $77,446 in interest on top of what he's paying. Parents, when your child starts working, do not be reluctant to have them come back home for a while and get this debt paid off. It should not be a 30-year sentence for them. Like in this case, and I just had a young lady, she's making $95,000 a year. And she said to me, why should I have to pay that back? I said, well, because you signed an agreement to do so. So we put together a plan for her to get all of her student loan debt paid off in 3 years. With Tyler here, $3,804. Why should he take 5 years, 6 years to pay that off? He probably can spend that in a couple of months eating out or going on a vacation. Make this a primary focus. And that's what we did for him. So he did not factor in the fact that he was going to do 36 years, $77,000 in interest. And what we did for him is put him in a plan that he had this loans paid off in less than 3. We can make this happen. And so parents too, if you're not only dealing with student loan debt, but mortgage debt as well, you can put it in the chat box. My partner, Jeremy, is watching the chat box. We'll reach out to you to give you that help, but you can also get an appointment at www.pryorfinancial.com. Don't forget about loan forgiveness programs. Now under COVID, a lot of individuals who have federally backed loans are not paying interest. Those are supposed to kick back in 1 October. I have clients who are getting letters saying, oh, did you realize that you didn't need to pay anything on your student loan debt through the COVID process? And do you want us to refund your money? So I had one client say, well, why would I want to do that? So I got on the phone with the representative from the servicing organization. And first of all, they didn't want to talk to me. This is not your business. I said, yes, it is. This is my client. As we were talking, he was saying, well, if we refund their monies to them, then all their interest is going to accrue, and then they can go ahead and start paying back in October. I said, well, wait a minute. By the fact that they're paying their student loan debt now, every dollar, every penny, every nickel they're paying pays down their student loan. Am I correct? Well, yes. I said, so why are you all sending out these letters asking people if they want their money refunded? That just does not make sense. So we do have that where right now, for those who have those student loans, I encourage you pay now while you can. But then there are other programs like the Federal Student Loan Forgiveness Program, and we have the teachers, we have the Public Federal Service Loan Forgiveness Programs as well. Under COVID, for those of you who have stopped paying your student loans, but you are enrolled in these programs, the good news is you get credit towards your 120 months while you are not paying. So that means that if you have a larger amount that's going to be forgiven on the back end, hooray. But individuals are also saying, well, what's going to happen with the Biden administration? Well, right now, we just don't know. But there are loan forgiveness programs that you can enter into, and it's important that you know the rules for your loan forgiveness program and that you do your annual recertification. You don't have to do a consecutive 120 months for the public service loan forgiveness program. You can do 10 months here, 15 months there, change jobs. So you don't have to be confined to one job just to qualify. But you do need to meet the rules. You can go to the Federal Student Loan Program, click on your loan. It will give you all the criteria for you to apply and qualify. So I thank you all so much for giving me this opportunity to present to you today. Our whole goal here at AKA is to help you develop a plan, because failing to prepare, by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. That was Benjamin Franklin. So in that, take the time, utilize the resources we are here to provide to you at #CAP, as well as AKA, to help you and your student, that you don't have to worry about a lot of these things. We want to be in partnership with you throughout this process. So thank you again, and all of you have a wonderful day. If you need help, we are here. Don't go it alone. For those of you who would like to be able to work with me, we're offering a 50% discount for college planning consultation. That presentation, you'll get that 50% if you book an appointment within the next 2 weeks of this presentation. Again, you can do that at www.pryorfinancial.com. I do hope this was beneficial to each and every one of you. Thank you so much again.
What an awesome, awesome presentation. Gina Pryor, you rock.
Thank
You
you.
are awesome. I was sitting here taking notes. You did a fantastic job. You just walked right into what Dr. Christy Murray left off with in our last webinar. You picked right up. We want to thank, on behalf of the Target One #CAP collaboration, we would like to thank each parent, student, interested party, and especially our guest, Mrs. Gina Pryor, for such an awesome, informative webinar. You have really enlightened a lot of us. Now, if you have any questions, as she said, you can always look at pryorfinancial.com and get more information. And we will get you, she will get you taken care of. Can I get the next slide, please? We appreciate your feedback. If you would graciously fill out this Survey Monkey evaluation, it should take you probably 3 minutes at the most. If you'll click the survey link in the chat or scan the QR code, tell us about your future needs or topics that you would like this collaboration committee to tackle. Email will be sent to the participants with the evaluation Survey Monkey link, as well as student slides and future webinar dates and registration. Next slide, please. We're going to have some giveaways. So if Dr. Kenesha Smith will come on, we'll get those giveaways for our participants today.
So we're going to do giveaways based on your registration. So I am going to work with Miss Cassandra Chambliss to call out some registration numbers, and she will look at the registration list and name the student or parent that will win the set of college funding books. So you will get the College Funding Strategies book and workbook if your name is called. So the first number I choose is number 31. Miss Cassandra, do we have, okay, she put it in the chat. Number 31 is Eric Tind. Eric, are you on the call? Unmute yourself if you are on the call so that we can get this information to you. You have to be present to win. Doesn't look like Eric is here. Let's pick another number.
Yes, ma'am, he's there.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my grandson. He answered in the chat, yes, ma'am.
Okay, perfect. So Eric, we will send a chat to you to get your registration information and verify that your address is correct, and we'll get that sent out to you.
So it looks like he's showing up under Johnny Johnson's name.
Okay. The next number is number 83. Number 83 is Pamela Taylor. Is Pamela Taylor on the call?
Yes, I am.
All right. We will verify your information and get your set of books to you.
Thank you.
And the last number is number 114, 114. Number 114 is Vilma Farrell. Are you on the call?
I am on the call. Thank
All
you.
right, congratulations. We will
Thank you.
verify your information as well and get your set of books sent to you. I would like to thank all participants, parents, and students, all the other members that showed up, and we look forward to seeing you at the next webinar and your chance to win giveaways.
So our next #CAP College Admissions Official webinar will be a chat with a panel of college admissions experts. It will take place on June 27th, 2021 at 4 p.m. It will be for high school students and their parents. You may register at the link listed below. We will have 6 college panelists, 3 from historically Black colleges and universities, and then 3 from predominantly white institutions or PWIs. We look forward to seeing each and every one of you on that webinar. Register early. You never know, there could be a giveaway or something. Who knows? We're just trying to make things happen for our college kids. So we thank you for attending our event today. We ask that each and every one of you be blessed. As you look at this final slide, we ask that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, Invest in Others. If you see at the bottom, these are the links to other webinars that have taken place or will be taking place. So as we round out our day today, we just thank each and every one of you for your participation. Gina Pryor, you did an awesome job. Dr. Christy Murray, thank you for facilitating this. Each and every one of you, please notice that if you look, it says that we have questions and answers. So if you have any questions, please type them in the chat at this time, or you may unmute your line and ask your questions. We do have time for a few more questions if you would like.
Ms. Pryor, I did see a question earlier that asked, what about students who are applying to college as independent without any apprentice and is emancipated without the funds? Do you know any programs that will help those type of students?
Yes, for those students, it's important that as you're completing your FAFSA form, that you're noting that in your form, which then for a lot of individuals makes them qualified for more need-based or merit-based funding. And if you're working with an independent organization or someone who's professionally helping you, they can look for other resources to assist you through the process as well. But if you're being declared independent, in most cases, you're going to be eligible for more need-based or merit-based funding for your college education.
Great, thank you. There are some new questions. One of our guests said that she works with male juveniles in a detention center in Anchorage, Alaska. Does their criminal record disqualify them from financial aid?
No, it does not. That's the good news. But there may be some things that they may have to identify by working with the financial aid office and being able to qualify. But there are some programs, depending on what state you are in, as well as some of the government programs that are available as part of the rehabilitation program. I know here in our area, we have a program as part called Round 2, and those are for individuals who have come out of the prison system. Pardon me.
All right, thank you.
Pardon
Question
me.
1, how do we sign up for the 50% off for the consultation?
If you would go to my website, www.pryorfinancial.com, and schedule your appointment, and in the comment section, put 50% CAP, CAP. And we will reach out to you tomorrow to schedule your appointment.
Thank you. Question 2, what are some financial aid options or resources for students who are green card holders who want to apply to college?
Green card holders, when you're filling out your FAFSA form as well as your college admission forms, it's important again that you're working with that college and understand what is available to them. You have to be in good standing as far as being a green card holder, that you're being admitted to, you're eligible for some of the programs. But the great news is that when most of the financial aid provided by the schools, it does not disqualify you, blanket disqualification based on your current status. What it does mean is that you have to work and be very clear when you're completing the application, what your status is, so that you know what you're eligible for.
Thank you, very helpful. Just a message for Eric Tend, if you are still on, if you could send me a private message with your email address. We're having a hard time identifying you in the list of participants who attended. So please, Eric Tend, please send me a private chat message with your email address. Okay, let's see if we have any other questions. Are there questions? I know our number of participants are starting to decline. If someone would love to ask a live question, come off mute. We're happy to take a live question at this time. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
For Eunice Johnson. For some reason, the young man's name is showing up under my name, Johnny Johnson, my husband. I'm in the system, unless he's got a family member named Johnny Johnson. For some reason, it's showing up under mine, and we're not related. I'm hoping that he will log in so he can get what he has been awarded. But I'm sorry, Eunice Johnson, and his name is showing up under my chat. Don't know why.
Okay, so we will take a look at that. Thank you. We appreciate your comments. We'll take a look at that and try to reconcile it. I do have a question for you, Ms. Pryor. You talked earlier about most schools with financial aid that students should do their research to understand which schools offer the most financial aid. Can you touch on how a student or parent could quickly discern which schools offer the most financial aid?
Well, as I said, one of the websites, Big Future, and then the other is collegescorecard.edu.gov. If you go to there where they actually have College Compare, on that, you can enter the names of the schools. And some of the websites allow you to put 3 schools, some allow you to put 4 schools. But by putting that in on their calculator, it will give you all of that information. What it also provides you is a link to that school. So then on the link, the school has a calculator. And on that calculator, you can put in your family income, and even to the point where you can just put estimates just to get a good feel. So you can look at your income, you can look at, they'll give you what the cost of the college is, and then what you can, some of them go in depth to the point where they're looking at, are you going to be an athlete? Are you have your grade point average? So each school is a little bit different, but on that calculator, it will give you then what that college, as far as give you an opportunity to see how much you would probably get in financial aid. Some of them also include what is your expected family contribution. And once you click through their financial aid link to their website, it will tell you also, as we were looking at, I was saying at the very beginning, looking at the dynamics of the school as far as demographics, look at how much they give in merit-based scholarships, look at their graduation rates as well. All of that information by law now is on all of those college websites. But if you want to streamline the process just to select those first couple of schools, by using those 2 websites, they'll give you access to that information. Dr. Murray, if you're speaking, you're muted.
Thank you. So there was another student question asking, are those 2 websites the presenter just mentioned on the college comparison list? Are they on your slides?
Yes,
and if not, so they are on her slides. So someone had requested, if not, to post them in the chat, but they are on the slides.
Yes, and one of the key ones, let me go back to my notes, is the from the Department of Education, the U.S. Department of Education, on their scoreboard as well. It will link you to a number of colleges and provide you with a lot of tools out there as well, including the school calculator. So you can go to those websites as well. And for those of you who may not have gotten the links to the website, if you just put in your search engine, college scholarship calculators, it will bring that up for you. And then you can actually go to those links as well. So the great thing is resources are in abundance. It's just a matter of now taking advantage of those tools so that that can help you not pay the sticker price for school.
Fantastic. Another question I received was, when will the recording be available? The recording will be available tomorrow on the Invest in Others /webinar materials website. I put it in the chat earlier. If you scroll up, you'll see that link. And the presentation for Ms. Pryor's slides will also be available. I'm not sure if it'll be the full slide deck or a condensed version, but we will work with her to get relevant slides that are shareable out to the community as well. And yes, there was another good question. Who can attend these webinars? Anyone. You don't have to be a relative or of an AKA member. These are open to the public, open to our communities. We want to make sure that we get students and parents who are in need of this information. This is why we're doing it. We want to help any and every student who's in need of this information. And we thank everyone for attending. Are there any final questions before we wrap up today? Okay, without hearing any